Meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, August 6, 2019. Just a quick note, Area 58 has informed me that Comcast has an area outage, and as a result, we will not be going out live tonight, which does nothing to help those that are at home that can't hear me making that announcement. However, they'll understand that, and so just if you do bump into someone that wonders why we weren't in session or weren't live tonight, we weren't plotting to take over the world. There was an outage, and so as a result, we won't go out live. However, you can catch it on Area 58 website or when it comes up for the on the TV. Okay, so, there we go.
Come over there, Peter.
All right. And we're back. All right, if you weren't awake, you are now.
If you were watching.
This meeting's being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, however, not live tonight. We have openings on several committees. Please refer to the Select Board page on our website for a listing and application. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Belvin, would you read the prayer to this evening? Sure.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit and dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring in an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all what we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek, and keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Amen. Before going to citizen participation, I had put on the agenda to have a discussion on citizen participation because it has become a point of discussion about what happens at citizens participation. The Code of Conduct explicitly states that the citizen participation should be tied to something on the agenda. However, past practice has been, and we've gone back, in fact, I think Alan did a lot of research on this as well, and to my recollection, I can't remember ever waving someone off because whatever they were talking about was not tied to the agenda, nor censoring anybody when they came up. So I'm looking for advice and counsel from the board. I don't know if you want to do just a consensus on how we're going to handle it, or if you want to actually change the wording in the Code of Conduct. But my experience from since I've been on the board and participating in citizens participation, we have never shut anyone off or paid any attention as to whether what they were speaking about was tied to the agenda, nor have we censored anybody. But I will follow the lead and consensus of the board, and if you want to censor content, or if you want to make sure that it's tied to something in the agenda, we can do that, or we can continue to do it the way we've done it in past practice, which is basically give people 3 minutes to speak their piece and not respond and then move on. So I guess I'm looking for input from the board in terms of how they like to handle this going forward. Mr. Dunham?
Well, I was going to let whoever brought this up for a discussion on, that was yours doing? Okay. If you ever want a real fun afternoon, read on the town website and read through the agendas dating back to 2013. That's before Michael.
That's how you spent your afternoon?
That's how I spent 3 hours this afternoon going through reading, because it was kind of curious, because I couldn't remember where we were ever pretty much limited to what was on the agenda. And I was shocked, well, not really shocked, I was pleasantly surprised.
It is in the Code of Conduct we approve every year.
Yes,
So
I know. But
shame on us.
But still, The vast majority, much more than 50%, I don't have an exact number, there was always something else that they were bringing up that they either wanted us to put it on a future agenda or to notify the board of something that was happening in town, some group or something. I even noticed quite a few times that, a couple of members of the board were even doing citizen participation, and I pointed to myself here as one of them, that were not necessarily having anything to do with the agenda. When I was chair, and I know since you've been chair, there have been times where most of us have been, the public's gone ahead and let us know exactly what they think, sometimes in no uncertain terms, and we've never gone ahead and really, I can only think of one time because somebody was really getting way out of line that I asked them to please stop. But other than that, it's been pretty much open fair game because it's the one chance, and this is the way I look at it, it's a chance for the citizens to come before us and, tell us what they think. I mean, it's one thing to do it on social media. A lot of it, some people don't bother to look at it. Some of us look at it a heck of a lot less than we used to. So it's a way to face-to-face address the board, and I don't see any need to go ahead and change the way we've been doing things. I realize the code of conduct may say try to stay with it, but I don't think we have to go ahead and abide by the rules and the code of conduct and the agenda. The citizens don't really have to. We'd like them to, but they don't have to. And I don't see why we should, change the way we're doing things and infringe on the rights of the citizens.
Again, my concern is that it is spelled out in the code of conduct, so I just want to take direction from the board, and I will implement whatever the board wants to do. Ms. Ewan?
Thank you. I'm glad you pointed out this was your idea. I didn't want the public thinking this discussion was my idea. As for my own opinion about it, I'm all for open comments from the public, as long as they're truthful and as long as they follow open meeting law. I think those should be requirements.
Well, what do you mean by open meeting law?
Well,
Because the very nature is they're not registering with us ahead of time what they're going to be discussing.
well,
so-
then maybe they should, because we have to follow open meeting law here.
Well, how does open meeting law apply to citizen participation?
Well, it happened on July 2nd. There was a citizen who participated in citizen participation that did not follow open meeting law and was not stopped.
What was the violation?
The attack that was made on me personally as a selectman, he should have known what my rights were.
Well, I guess Alan was called out and told to step down from being chair. I've been
Lord.
I've been annihilated up here any number of times from there, so.
That was not done on, what happened on July 2nd happened in this meeting. And as chair, we're supposed to follow open meeting law.
I guess I am just not understanding how you can violate an open meeting law violation in citizen participation.
Because, in my opinion, Ron, you should have come and directly told the citizen what my rights were that had been violated.
Again, I've had people up there ripping me a new one, and they finish and they leave.
And the reason it doesn't violate the open meeting law is because we do not then address it. We let them say their piece, and that's it. We don't get into a discussion of it. In fact, we've had a number of times people come up and want to know why we won't discuss with what they're bringing forward, and we explain because of the open meeting law.
Well, I mean,
we cannot get into that.
I'm more than happy to explore it and see whether or not what you're saying is accurate, because if it is, then I would implement it, but I don't know how I'd identify it. I don't know specifically
Well, it's pretty
what you
easy.
consider the violation was.
It's pretty easy to identify a personal attack.
Well, we've all had personal attacks against
Well, they
us from
should all
there.
be nipped in the bud, and the person doing it should be told what the public official's rights are.
Well, I guess that's the feedback I'm looking for, is
Yeah.
whether or not we want to censor what someone says or not.
It's not censoring, it's explaining to them what the rights are
I've had
of the...
personal attacks against me, and no one said a word about it.
Well,
And Alan was called out and told he should step down and not participate and not be the chair anymore.
yeah, that didn't happen at a public meeting, though.
Yeah,
Yes,
did.
it was. It was
Citizen
an open meeting here
participation.
by somebody.
Okay, well then, whoever was the chair should have said something.
Alan was the chair at the time.
Well, okay.
Bob, do you have an opinion?
I concur with Alan, that it stay the same as it has. Let people speak, because if they bring up issues that we don't know about, How are we going to know about it if it's on our agenda that there's nothing on there? It'll never get it posted. And, I mean, for them to come up and say, these are my issues, great. Then we're going to put it on the next agenda, we can talk, and you come back and we'll talk about it in a public forum like we did. The open meeting law, the way I read it, it says that if the chairman doesn't know what's being discussed, okay, it could be discussed by the board, okay, because no one knows what this information just got brought to us.
Unanticipated
But
within 48
Well, we never respond to the citizen
and
participation.
I
anyway.
understand that. I understand. I'm just saying that we could if we wanted to, but it's been the policy of the board not to respond.
Because
Which
that
is
would
fine.
violate-
Which would, well, not necessarily, because if you don't know, if you knew that person was coming up and talking, because you create the agenda, the chairman does, if you knew that person was sitting there and what they were going to say there, then we couldn't discuss it because you knew 48 hours in advance. Then, if you don't know 48 hours in advance of what's going to be discussed by a resident that comes up here, then in all actuality, we just got to change the agenda, all right,
I
after the
don't,
fact,
I don't
to
think we can
notify the
respond
people.
to citizen participation because it was not advertised to the public that we'd be discussing those issues, and so I think it would be a violation of the open meeting law. You'd be opening up to having discussions on any number of things.
But
at
that
point
doesn't
in time.
preclude
weren't
us
on the agenda.
from
Right.
listening it to it.
Right.
Right, no, nothing, I'm talking about responding. In terms of what they say, they've had carte blanche to say whatever they want.
Right, and I agree with that, and I have no problem. I have no problem with the board not discussing what's being on, but put it on the next agenda. I have no problem with that. That's why I say, with Alan, I mean, I agree with everything he said, and I have no problem with any resident coming up here and speaking their mind and saying, okay, this is it. As long as they're respectful, all right, and they don't attack, all right? And that's where the chairman will have to stand up and say something and say, stop right now. Okay, this is where I
Well,
feel...
that's the direction I'm looking for,
Okay.
because I have never seen us censor anyone in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I have never censored anyone. If the board is telling me now that going forward, if you know, I guess in my opinion, it's taken the nature of a personal attack, then I can shut it down.
And I think that's where, just like you as the chairman, you're going to have to take that initiative to turn around and decide if it is, or if one of the other members will stand up and say, you know what, I'm not too
Again,
comfortable
I'm
with this.
perfectly
way this is
happy to
going.
do that. But going to past practice, we've never done it, but I am looking for direction from the board, and if the board says continue the practice to let them speak on any topic, regardless of whether it's tied to the agenda or not. However, if it becomes a mean-spirited personal attack, shut it down. That's fine. I can do that.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Again, I'm trying to get a consensus, to go forward with.
I think it's very, very important that citizens have a right to address the board in citizen participation on whatever item they want. We absolutely can't respond. I don't want them to have to, register in advance or in some way tell us what they're speaking about in advance. I don't think they should have to do that. I think this is their chance to address the board. So I don't want any restrictions placed on citizens' participation, and I guess it's going to be up to the chairman going forward. If they think it's really getting out of bounds, then perhaps you have to step in. But I would really hate to see us shutting citizens down. I would hate to see us doing that, so.
Alan?
Yeah, the one thing about that, and I agree, there's a responsibility to the chair, whoever that is. However, you got to really be careful. I agree with Mark. You can't shut them down just because you don't like what they're saying. Now, if they're using racial epithets or something like that, definitely, you got to shut them down in a heartbeat. But if it's their opinion that somebody of the board or the board as a whole should take an action, which is really, maybe cutting to us, that's why they pay us the big bucks. We've got to sit here and take it.
Well, I think more to the point that we're talking about is that in that particular instance, there were accusations of lying and that sort of thing. And so I think those would be looking back at that episode, that would have qualified in my mind as that.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, Ryan. I think that was my point. I agree with everything that's been said here about allowing people to speak and put whatever they're concerned about on the next agenda. But I think that if someone is going to start launching a personal attack at a public official, no matter who that person is or how you feel about them, that has to be shut down, and that person needs to be told why, because it's in open meeting law. And
Well,
maybe
again,
they don't know that, but it's
I-
right there in open meeting law.
That you can't personally attack someone?
That there's a way to do it, that a public official has rights, like I read on July 2nd. They have the right to an attorney, they have the right to 48 hours notice, and they have the right to whether or not to have an executive session or open session.
That would be for an
that's
official action. A citizen just saying up.
No,
sitting
the
up
word
here-
is personally.
I'm sorry, I have to disagree.
The word is personally.
Well, we can explore that, but at any rate, at this point in time, I'm taking the direction from the board, and let me know if I'm getting this right, to continue citizen participation the way we have, allowing people to speak on any topic for the 3 minutes, in the 10-minute sections, not tied necessarily to the agenda, so they're not to be shut down if they've deviated off the agenda. However, if the chair feels that the comments have become mean-spirited or so over-the-top accusatory, whatever, then I should shut them down. Is that accurate? People comfortable with that?
The only thing I might add is that I think our written guidelines should agree with with our actions as a board. So to the extent that what our code of conduct says doesn't agree with that, perhaps at a future meeting, we should put that on the agenda to maybe change
I was
the
going
wording
to
a
ask
little
if maybe
bit to-
someone wants to work up the wording, we can have that worked up and have that
Just the
considered.
first sentence in the fine print on the agenda. Discussions during board meetings should always be courteous and respectful and should be confined to the subject matter under consideration. It appears you just want to cross off the end of that sentence, and should be confined to the subject matter under consideration.
Isn't that more our instructions as
Well, your
opposed to citizen?
instructions are dictated by open meeting law. This is really kind of the suggestions to the public when you have public participation.
Well, then we need to put in there, somewhere in there, that they should not feel restricted to what our agenda is.
Well, I think that if he
Well, if you take that
off
out,
that
then-
language,
Yeah.
that pretty much.
At any rate, let's take a look at it, because it's the code of conduct and that would both need to be changed. So we could, at our next meeting, we can certainly address the language and leave it to the chair and possibly with the assistance of other members of the board if they feel that something's going off the track. So, all right,
I
good.
mean, we get a legal opinion to kind of determine what the clarification is between different board members on what the rights are of a elected official.
Good idea.
What was that?
We can get some clarification
Oh, yes,
from council
okay.
on that.
All right. All right.
Mr. Chair, could I just mention one thing? Next, if we're going to vote on this next time, could it be very clearly stated on the agenda what we're voting on? For the public?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is citizens' participation. This is time we set aside for residents of the town of Carver to come up and express their opinion on a topic that they would like to bring before the board. It does not necessarily have to be tied to the agenda, but we do ask that they confine it to no more than 3 minutes in order to give other people the opportunity to speak. Was there anyone here tonight that would like to speak? I see 2 hands go up. I see 3 hands go up. We'll start with Donna. And please provide your name and address when you sit down.
Hi, Donna Marie Florian, 278 South Meadow Village. I just wanted to come before you. I attended the recreational planning meeting on July 17th, and I just wanted to report back to you that I was very impressed with them. They are working on the playground, the new playground, and I was thoroughly impressed with the ADA equipment that they're really researching out, and it's a lot of work. And I know we have 2 of the board members here tonight, but I'm very impressed, number one. The other thing is I'm president of the Old Colony Regional Vocational Educational Foundation Board. And we have an event coming up on November 15th. It's a night to remember, and it's to raise money for different activities at the school pertaining to education. So I just wanted to invite the public to
This is the
that.
elementary or the high school?
The high school.
High school.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the woman behind you first.
November 15th, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Emily Slavin, 179 Main Street, Carver. I'm coming on behalf of the Go Gold team here in Carver. We also are part of Wicked Good Cause. We met with you guys at the end of last year. And September is coming, and so this, on the agenda, we added a one-day liquor license. We're going to be using the Sportsman's Club to do a cornhole tournament and maybe some family fun day part of it. And we are in the beginning process of planning it. We were wondering if maybe we could have that fee waived for that one day. We have a liquor company coming in who is going to be responsible for all of that for the day. And so we're just wondering if we could have the fee waived. We're trying to raise as much money as possible. And then the other thing is we also will be submitting to use again the Light Up the Night, the 28th, and we will be lighting up the streets in the center of town with the bags in Shirtliff Park and having some cake celebrating, you know, Zach Kane's life and all the others that are fighting and didn't make it. So I'll be submitting that, asking for permission. We always clean up after ourselves, and just wanted to involve all you guys for the month of September, and the public, you'll be seeing more about it, so.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, where that's going to be later into our meeting, can I make a motion that we take that out of order and take care of that item now?
With 5 minutes left on citizens' participation, we'll stop the clock now.
Well, no, we can go with citizens' participation, but I'd
okay.
like to do it as soon as citizen participation is
Okay.
over.
That's fine. Someone else wanted to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Nicole Tully, 162 Center Street here in Carver. Full disclosure, I'm one of those not on the agenda, so I was taking a whim here that this would be okay. I'm going to read it so that I stay on point for 3 minutes. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard tonight. My name is Nicole. I reside at 162 Center Street. I am approaching the board today to request support seeking assistance from the town council with an ongoing concern that I have regarding the property adjacent to mine, illegally operating a tree business at 164 Center Street. A little more than 2 years ago, that property was purchased, and shortly after it was purchased, the new owners cleared the backyard of trees and brush. The previous owners actually had an extensive amount of debris and trash in their backyard. It was a much older woman. And when the trash was cleared, a significant amount of it was pushed into my yard. There are surveyor's tapes, so I don't know whether it's over the line or right on the line, but it's right there. The house at my property is set deep off of Center Street, and the house at 164 is roadside on Center. So as you exit my driveway, the backyard of 164 is immediately to the left. And since the yard was cleared, a tree company has been operating at the property, working in the backyard as well as coming and going all day. There are piles of trees that have been brought in, full-blown massive trees. Massive piles of cut wood, mulch, bark also stored on the property, along with more than a half dozen commercial diesel fuel-operated vehicles, dump trucks, crane trucks, chippers, and other fuel-operated lumber machinery. Some never leave the property as they appear to be open and being there for maintenance. Others come and go. The noise, there's no explaining it. You're sitting in the middle of the lumber yard. We initially reported it 2 years ago, and it was confirmed by the building inspector. It was 100% illegal. We've been told multiple occasions throughout these 2 years that the town is in the process of addressing. Throughout that time, the smell of diesel, the noise level, the bugs, the traffic, it's all doubled. I've been reaching out and asking for assistance with the building inspector for every month to 2 months for the 2 years. I recently came in person, actually not recent, like spring, and was told I needed to go to the TA's office. When I got to the TA's office, they knew nothing of it. The message hadn't left the building inspector and got to the TA. As we're aware, the TA, town council, the whole town has been inundated with other more pressing town matters since town meeting. But now that those things have settled down, I was hoping I could ask for your assistance on getting town council to respond to this. I personally, not that it matters, work from home on a daily basis, and the noise is beyond intolerable. It's actually been interruptive with my work, so I'm conference calling all day long. Once you add in the concerns about the commercial vehicles parked on the property and the potential fuel in getting into our well. The insect problems, the chips, the traffic, the coming and going, I feel like I have more than reason to ask for assistance. It's also my understanding that the owners have been made aware on many occasions that operating here is illegal, but have refused to either depart or even apply for what might be an exception. Not only are they operating a business, storing these vehicles close to my home and well, and have an immediate risk to my family, we are also very close proximity to a number of cranberry bogs and the ponds surrounding that area behind there. So perhaps maybe this begs even additional attention, but I'm asking the board for assistance in requesting a response from town council to address this.
Again, we can't really discuss it, but
Yeah.
can you leave that with us?
Yes, yep,
Okay? Thank you, and we will get back to you.
sure, thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to speak?
Evening.
Evening.
My name is John Gasky.
Hold the mic over in front of you, please.
John Gasky, 162 Plymouth Street here in Carver. Coming today with regards to, I think the item might actually be on the agenda, was regards to the water contamination from the North Carver landfill. We've had several meetings with the town administrator, and the residents in the area have had several meetings with town administrator and the Board of Health. There's been some evidence of misfeasance or malfeasance going on with regards to notifications, the water testing and things like that. Documents that, so back in 2016, 1,4-dioxane was detected in wells around our houses. Notification didn't actually get out to the residents, and only a few residents got notified with regards to the presence of the 1,4-dioxane in 2017. And later in 2018 was when the town finally started, town administrator and the Board of Health finally started to do something about it and supply water to offset the contamination that had occurred in our wells. There's been little to no notifications up to this point, up until we raised the red flags here in 2019 that the problems with the wells were not being addressed, and come to find out that testing that they had, that an additional test had taken place and had found no more dioxane in one of the monitoring wells. During that time, there was several notifications to the Mass DEP. One of them came from a previous contractor who had raised the red flags to begin with back in 2016. And again, notification didn't arrive to us until summer of 2017. And then into the fall, we finally got water tested. It was when water testing finally started. During this time, documents to the DEP demonstrate that the town was in compliance with notifications that had started taking place prior to us actually being notified, as well as water being supplied when it hadn't been, as well as to other residents who were affected even more so with higher levels of dioxane than my personal well. Where it had happened, and he had not been notified. He wasn't actually notified until these latest rounds of meetings between the residents and town administrator had started with the Board of Health and the town administrator. So I'm requesting assistance from the board to begin investigating what's going on behind this, as well as continued investigation into the 1,4-dioxane plume that appeared in the monitoring well and has since appears to have moved, but with research that we have looked up through different university studies and things like that, that the 1,4-dioxane doesn't just disappear. It moves with the water. It moves through the water, moves rapidly, and it doesn't cook off. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays right there wherever it ends up. It moves around. I believe that this is a considerable health risk to the residents of North Carver with the private wells.
The board will follow up on this, and you'll be contacted.
I appreciate it.
It's part of our agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I realize that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do need to...
No, we're not going to respond to it now. We are not going to respond to, no, we are not getting into it now.
It's on the agenda later.
You can discuss it later.
Yep.
And one other thing, in addition to the house next door to us, we brought 160 has been brought up several times. It's been abandoned for well over a year. Trash, rat, and critter infested. They keep coming over into its.
We will follow up on that as well.
All right, appreciate it.
Sir, could you just tell us your name again?
John Gasky.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're at over our 10-minute mark, so we'll move on to the next item on our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes, sir.
move that we go ahead and take action on the application for one-day special liquor license fundraiser for Go Gold Wicked Good Cause to take place at the Carver Sportsman's Club on 9/14/19, and that we waive the fee.
Second.
Further discussion?
I abstain.
No further discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is Chapter 61A conversion request, Gate Street, map 40, lot 8-0, and map 37, a portion of 21.73 plus or minus acres of lot 1-L, 130.6 plus acres, and a portion of lot 1, is it an I or a 1? I, 44.6 plus or minus acres.
I think it's a 1.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well,
We have someone to speak to it?
We have a
Okay.
gentleman here.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain. I'm an act direct about out of this.
Okay.
All right, I recuse myself.
Yes, sir, please identify yourself.
My name is
And
Tom.
speak into the microphone, please.
My name is Tom Mellahan, and I am a manager of Renewable Energy Development Partners, and we are doing the solar project on the property owned by Bayside Agricultural. And so I guess I would just be here to answer any questions that the board might have about the request to have the property removed.
Mr. Milanowski, can you give us an update on this project?
No issues.
Has this gone before the planning board for a special permit yet?
It has, yes.
And it was approved?
It has, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's gone before the Conservation Commission?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
Other questions? No. Being none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Harmless.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and now, 7:25, we have some representatives here to discuss the police buddy bag program for kids.
No, having a bag that hides the young lady.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
You ready? Please, if you could identify yourselves.
Thanks. Peter Allegrini, 113 South Meadow Road. Jillian Algreen, 113 South.
And you, sir, are?
Mark Dufley, your police chief. Thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I wrote a quick little thing here, if I could read it. In 2015, while on vacation in Orlando, Florida, my family was a victim of a hit-and-run motor vehicle accident. The Florida State Trooper noticed my daughter was a bit shaken up, the one that didn't show up. The trooper on scene asked my 4-year-old daughter if she would like to pick a toy out of a bag she had in the trunk of her patrol car. That small gesture made an impact on her that is lasting to this day. Fast forward to 2019, I saw a newspaper article about a local town who started a buddy bag program. A small bag of assorted small toys, crayons, coloring books stored in the trunk of the town's patrol cars for situations just like the one we had experienced. As most know, my family is involved with the annual toy drive with our police chief and the Carver Police Union. In years past, our community has been extremely generous, exceeding all of our toy drive goals. After helping countless families, we still had an assortment of small toys left over, even after distributing some to a local homeless shelter to use as birthday gifts throughout the year. I called Chief Dufley in the union about introducing the buddy bag idea to our department right here in Carver. The idea was welcomed with open arms. My family has provided enough bags for all Carver's patrol cars. We filled the bags with donated toys, crayons, coloring books, left over from the toy drive, as well as donations from our family. My family is committed to support this program long-term. I would like to thank Chief Dufley and the Police Union for another opportunity to work hand-in-hand on another community project. So what we did is we just, my wife picked up some bags, and at our sign shop, we labeled them buddy bag with the Carver Police badge, and every cruiser from the chief's cruiser, by the way, that's your bag, chief, all the way up to the sergeants, the patrol cars, everyone will have a bag that will be stocked full of toys that if they go to an EMS call or unfortunately a domestic or motor vehicle accident, they'll be able to put that gesture on, just like the Florida State Trooper did for my daughter. And it was a positive thing that happened out of a negative motor vehicle accident. So would you like to show a couple things that we put in the bag?
Are all the bags the same, or are there different
No,
things in
the bags will all be assorted. There'll be no uniformity to them, except all bags will have markers and crayons and coloring books. We're going to keep that standard, but other than that, it's just a little bit of everything. We won't take everything out, but
What? No fire truck?
negative on the fire truck there, Chief. So this is what we've done, and I want to again thank you guys for your time tonight to introduce this program. We tried to get an officer here tonight, but they're busy on calls right now, and thanks for the chief supporting another community project.
Mr. Chairman.
The chief wants to speak.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the Allegrinis for this idea of formalizing the ability to have these in the trunk of cruisers. I think for a long time, police officers have taken on themselves to have teddy bears available for children like this. But this gives us a nice, clean way to keep it, because I've seen a lot of teddy bears sit in the trunk of cruisers that get so dirty and nasty you don't want to give them to kids. And it's a very real need. As you can imagine, our officers come into contact with children in difficult circumstances all the time, from car accidents to domestics to all kinds of things that we're probably not going to talk about here tonight. But having this, certainly, as Mr. Allegrini can speak to, helped his daughter through something. I think it'll be very, very helpful to the youth of our community, or just people passing through. We got a lot of people go through here for the fair and everything else. So it might not be just kids from our community. And again, I'm very grateful to him and to the union for getting together and making this project work. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Dunham?
Yeah, Peter, I'd like to know, what else do you need? I mean, we've got a couple of opportunities coming up. You've got the Carver Night Out. Maybe if you have a section down at the high school with these bags, or where citizens can go ahead and donate either money or items that you need for the bags. Is there anything you still need?
Right now, we're stocked, but moving forward, if somebody would like to make a donation to the police union, they can make the donation Carver Police Union and just put Buddy Bag Program in the memo.
That way you'll have something.
That way, yeah. I actually contacted my cousin and his family. They own a big distribution. They buy odd lots and closeouts, and they sell to like Christmas Tree Shop, and they sell to the dollar stores and Ocean State Job Lot. And I called them the other day, a couple weeks ago, and I said, listen, we're doing this program. I need to buy 100 coloring books from you. And he called me back, and he said, I'll put a bunch of coloring books together. He goes, but I don't want anything for them. I just want to support the program. So I've got over 100 coloring books coming from my cousin as well. And I had another resident who I was explaining to him, and he said, well, when you need to fill up, if you need any more donations, just let me know. I'd be happy to support it. So the support is definitely out there, and I can't stress enough how generous this community is at toy drive time. It is. I've done the toy drive with the union for 3 or 4 years. It has grown. It honestly makes me emotional. Just the amount of stuff that we receive is just absolutely incredible. We've helped countless families, and we still have stuff left over to be able to do a program like this that will continue to help families all year round. So,
well, just please let us know if you need a boost so we can go ahead and make an announcement.
definitely. We can do an update in about 6 months or so. We'll come back in and talk about it again. But
thank you very much for working with the police
Other questions,
department.
anybody?
thank you.
I guess one question there, is each police officer going to be responsible for sort of keeping tabs on their bag and know when to refill it? And
Yeah, I work a lot with Mark and the chief, and the union on so many things. I joke with them that I'm in the police station more than his officers are. So, but all kidding aside, I'll work with them and we'll keep tabs on them. We're not going to be running through 2 or 3 toys a day, I don't imagine, but
We'll hope not.
yeah, but we'll check in once a month or once every couple of months. We'll make sure. But
Okay.
the officers are aware of it, and they're excited about it. They're excited to be able to have another tool in their toolbox.
Well, thank you very much. This is a really positive foot forward in the community, and I think it's a great idea, and anyone that's ever had kids in a car and you've had a traffic stop, just this type of thing, this type of generosity coming from the policeman that's aiding you, just, it's scary enough for the adults, never mind for the kids. So this is a great idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks for bringing Jillian.
Gotta keep her more quiet, though.
She's the resident terrorist.
Don't say that too loud. There are microphones.
All right, next item on the agenda, the Council on Aging Needs Assessment Committee preliminary results on the success of the survey and who responded. First, several presentations as data analysis is completed by our consultant. Anticipate a full presentation on September 3rd. On September 3rd.
We're going to move that to the 17th.
And we'll have a complete, full presentation on September 17th. So I'll turn it over to you. Please identify yourselves.
I'm Savory Moore, 12 South Main Street. I'm chairman of the COA Needs Assessment Committee.
And Stephen Cole, just some guy now.
You look a little familiar, but
I tried to come incognito, but I saw that Peter recognized me right away.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you so much for the opportunity to come back to you. As you may remember, this was a bit of a pet project of mine. I took this personally for all the reasons I could but will not recount. But the opportunity that you presented us to come to you tonight was largely designed to give you a little bit of an update on some of the data that we received. The Needs Assessment Committee still has much work to do. We're analyzing these results. As the town manager just mentioned, we should have the final full report to the board by September 17th. At that time, we will then take it to the road, and we intend to give presentations to the 2 villages, as well as Cranberry and South Meadow, as well as have a town-wide meeting at the library sometime before mid-October. So once we have these results analyzed, my sense is that you will be hearing from us again.
What about Waterview?
I mentioned the 2 particularly because we have 2 members on the Needs Assessment Committee who are residents of those 2 particular villages, and they actually do have the resources as well as the bit of a promise for having participated, that we will bring the presentation to them.
Well, yeah, I expect you to, but, Waterview Village is another senior community that I don't want it to be left behind.
Oh, we certainly wouldn't leave anybody behind.
Okay.
And so is Meadowwoods, too.
Good point.
So, Mr. Chairman, members, I certainly want to thank this board. I want to thank the town manager for his leadership on the matter, as well as affording some resources to this. I don't think we should go the evening without thanking the staff in the PEP office, as well as the Board of Selectmen staff, because they were instrumental in making sure the data was entered as well as entered correctly, which is probably the more important element of this. TSM Design is the company that was hired through a competitive process by the Needs Assessment Committee. I want to thank them also. And it certainly has to be said that we want to thank the COA Needs Assessment Committee. Those members are Joanne Nelson, Pat Henderson, Ken Morrison, and Sabri Moore, the gentleman to my left. Before the survey was completed or even sent out, however, we wanted to touch base with the community through a focus group, because we wanted to know how to structure it, what's the best way to send this out, what are some of the things we need to be mindful of as we're analyzing these results. Maureen Nelson participated in this along with Cheryl Atkinson, Gail Hanlon, Noel Bierce, Maria Watson, Jim Dayhill, Peg Blackwell, and America's very own Nancy Ryan. All of those folks participated in the most meaningful way possible because it gave us the foundation on which we could then structure the survey. I want to, at this time, I think the board members have a copy of the study or its draft format, and if not, we can certainly get that to you. The Needs Assessment Committee was responsible for managing the public process to collect information, to learn more about the makeup of Carver's 55-plus population, and determine their baseline service needs. This survey was designed to build on the body of work previously completed by the COA Board of Directors. We will be visiting the COA Board of Directors next week so that they can have a presentation to themselves also. We can receive their feedback. That feedback will then be shared with TSM Design, and that will, of course, be part of the final report. In addition to needs assessment, the survey collects information about awareness of the COA's current programs, services, and facilities, and their relevance to their needs of to the needs of older adults. In order to ensure that the survey would achieve the committee's goals and objectives and have widespread participation, TSM Design facilitated the focus group that I mentioned, and so I just want to thank those folks again because they gave us about a half of their day, and it was instrumental in how we proceeded. One of the things that the Needs Assessment Committee had established early on was a series of goals, and that was captured through a project charter. That project charter will be available to the board. I think some of you members have seen it before, but it'll also be in part of the compendium of documents and material that will be on deposit at the library at the conclusion of the project. The stated goals were to support the town's ongoing efforts to evaluate the expectations and service needs expressed by Carver's older adult population. Many of the services or many of the adults in Carver would start to use these COA services right around the age of 62. Not everyone does, and frankly, not everyone knows about them. We wanted, though, get a sense of what's the next class of Carver residents, those folks who are 55 now, who will be 62 fairly soon. What are their desires? What are their needs? We need to prepare for them as well. So this data that's being prepared for the town is largely intended not to draw immediate conclusions, but to present you with information so that public policy and decisions can be made. We got our finger on the pulse of the market, so to speak. We know what our customers are asking for. And so just a little bit of a snapshot, keeping in mind our goals were to determine whether the town provides the right services at the proper levels to older residents, making certain that the town suitably represents the most vulnerable and susceptible members of the community, and supporting a sustainable and meaningful quality of life for people throughout their lives. Those were the goals of the Needs Assessment Committee when designing the survey. And so with that, I'm glad to report that of the 4,000 surveys that were sent out, we received over 30% response rate.
And my understanding is that that's considered to be an excellent response rate?
Superlative, yes, sir, yes. And just to put it in perspective, local elections across the Commonwealth have experienced voter turnout rates sub 10%. So that
We're
we have.
familiar with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this segment of the population in Carver, 55 and older, represents about 35% of the total population. We received roughly 31% response rate. It's representative. As I combed through some of this data, I was continually stunned because it was consistently representative of what we know from a macro level in this town. Example, 4% of seniors age 55 and older have responded that they concern themselves with paying for utilities or their prescription medication. 4% of respondents make that is a concern of theirs on a daily basis. The poverty rate in town, as captured by the ACS and the census, is about 4%. Those types of trends are throughout the survey. We consistently see some decent representation from across the boards. So with a 30% response rate, what we have here is those folks who are 55 to 64, we capture 20% of the town. Now, those are folks that we weren't even initially considering. We kind of treated them as almost like gravy. They're the forecast. Those are the folks who are going to be using these services soon. We have about 35% of the population between 65 and 74 who responded. 39% of the population, 75 to 84, and 41% of the population, 85 plus. Fairly representative across the board. And of them, some of the things that we found is that we have a very healthy and active population. 57% self-identified as being in excellent or good health, and only 10% of Carver seniors report poor health, explicitly poor health. The other third are somewhere in the middle. I'd probably put myself somewhere in the middle if I was in this cohort. So what that tells us is not only do we have an active population, but we actually delved a little further and wanted to know, how do you describe yourself in terms of physical fitness or severe mobility issues? About 16% of the population reports some kind of mobility issue. 48% reports that they are, in their own terms, physically fit. We wanted to know some of their social habits. What are some of the things that they do normally that would get them out of the house? What are some of their interests? And what we found was that across the board, 55 to right around the 75 to 84 mark, almost half of the population is considered outgoing. And only 20% of that population would consider themselves homebodies. So they're likely not to leave the house anyway, right? 39% of folks who are 85 plus consider themselves outgoing, and 31% are homebodies. The rest fall somewhere in the middle. So that's one of the few segments or our cohort groups that are actually pretty evenly segmented. We wanted to know generally, I mean, in a small community, we all see the same names and same faces, generally speaking, right? But we wanted to know how people might see their own participation in their community. And 19% report that they feel they are involved in their community. 56% admittedly are uninvolved in the community. There's a lot of opportunity there. We wanted to know about some of their employment and retirement status too, and one of the things that stood out to me was that about 3% of this cohort group, 55 and older, only 3% is reporting that they're getting ready to retire. That's telling. 37% report that they are already retired and are busier than ever. So they want to be active, that's clear. Some of the things that we know about the COA is that they want to engage folks and make sure that they are active and having healthy, full lifestyles. Working full-time, about 60% of the population in town between 55 and 64 reports that they work full-time. Only 2% of 85 plus reports that they work full-time. What's curious, though, is that there's actually more respondents who are 85 plus. 2% of 85 plus report working full-time. Only 1% of 75 to 84 are working full-time.
2% of the 85 plus are working full-time?
You got a long way to go, Ron.
Don't give that information to my wife.
Well, it looks like you're allowed a reprieve between 75 to 84, but you're working again by 85.
There'll be no reprieve.
The housing situations were also something important to us. For myriad reasons, we all know about the housing situation in the Commonwealth, especially what the forecast for the future of transportation holds, 600,000 new residents in Eastern Mass by 2040. I live in a private residence. 64% of our community responded that way. I live in a Carver senior village. That's the other third. That's the whole gang. About 1% reports living in public housing, and then 2% report other, but some of those specifications fall off of the data.
Some of that might be, the other might be in-law.
Could well be. Yeah, accessory dwelling units. Mobility was another matter that we had touched on earlier, and when delving down, we asked folks, do they drive themselves? Do they ride share with friends or family? Do they ride the bus? Is there something else that they use? 96% of folks 55 to 64 drive themselves. 62% of 85 plus drive themselves.
Well, you got to get to work.
Well, so in that vein, one of the things that I must say that the chairman to my left pointed out earlier when we were discussing, we asked about the COA services and whether they're likely to use them, certainly to use them, or won't at all. That number is interesting to me because when we asked about dial-a-ride bus service, what we found was that 72% may use this in the future. 4% already do. In talking to the COA director, we learned earlier that there's 3 buses presently, and that accommodates for the 4% of people who already do. 7% will definitely use this service, they responded. You want to give your analysis on that one? I think it's not premature.
That would necessitate right away probably another 2 buses, which currently, according to the director, are not funded. The 72% figure, while very large, is probably, it's not time stamped. So someone 65 is probably saying, well, 20 years from now I may need it. But it could jump up incrementally as people age. And just another thing is that we have 31% of the population of being 55 and over. And I think based on working on the master plan that I did a couple years ago, that trend is growing. So as you know, the people who are 50 now in 5 years will be 55. So that 31% may in fact be 34 or 35% by then. So these numbers are going to continue to grow. And as people remain healthier and more physically fit, the older age groups are also going to continue to grow. So this is all information that's really important for us to have moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And truly something that this board has heard me say before, the only housing that has been approved so far in the time that I was here anyhow was 55 and older. That's the new housing demographic that most of this area can look forward to accommodating for. This will give developers as much information as it does for this community, the local decision makers at the government level. My sense is that in doing this study, we are inherently inviting developers to partner with the town to effectuate some of these conclusions. The conclusion shared by the chairman is strictly a preliminary. We haven't had any conversations about it as a group, and we certainly haven't shared it with the COA. But if the trends are at all, or if the numbers are at all indicative, we know what the trends will be. Something that stood out to me also that's important and frankly captures some of the reason why we did this as part of our goals, to ensure that the most susceptible members of our community are not forgotten. In real numbers, there are 387 people who are experiencing real-life issues that the COA may be able to assist with. Now, naturally, this is only a representative number of the respondents. However, if we apply that 31% of respondents to the whole 55-plus community, we're looking at almost 1,300 people who could be having these types of life-serious problems, that they either have mobility issues or there's some kind of a problem with meals or there's a problem with prescriptions. So as a sample size, this is the only one that I would caution doesn't necessarily capture the full spectrum of the community. However, if we apply these metrics and we apply it to the total population, my sense is that there's more than 387 people in the community who are expressing quote-unquote real life issues. We asked folks also what they would like to see in a COA building. The point of the COA survey was not to discuss a building, and this was the only time we had any conversation with the community about a building, but not building specific, not program specific. We wanted to know, what did you want to see in a space that would entice you to want to come out? Conveniently located, rises to the top of the charts, followed by regular hours of operation, flexible space for a variety of activities. Now, what's funny about this is that 83% of respondents, despite what this list says, this is not intended in any way to be an indictment or holding a candle to any town department. 83% of respondents reported that they didn't know about the COA service portfolio. So this was as much an opportunity for the COA and the town to educate residents about what services do exist. So my sense is that by September, we will have combed over this, and not only will we have grown our respondent rate to future opportunities. As another metric here, I just want to interrupt myself and say over 50% of respondents reported that they read the newsletter every month. That's a captive audience. What's really kind of funny to me too is that 37% of those folks who are 55 to 64. So they're outside of the service portfolio, generally speaking. 37% of those folks would like to sign up and receive the COA newsletter. So I think that in some ways we have captured results that are representative of the community. They need to be analyzed. Results will be presented to a joint meeting, I understand, of the COA and the BOS. We will be visiting the COA Board of Directors next week to discuss this a little bit further. And then the COA Needs Assessment Committee will reconvene on the 20th to review any changes and, I understand, endorse results.
Yes. That's
and
correct.
at that time, we'll be bringing it back to you for the final report on the 17th. TSM Design will be present at that night, so you'll get a far more robust and interesting presentation than what you received from me.
Questions from the board?
Yes, thank you. Stephen,
Sarah, how are you?
Good, nice to
missed
see you again.
Nice to see you.
Same here. I just want to know what the raw number of respondents was.
That number was?
1,400?
It was just shy of that, Mr. Chairman. It was right there.
About 1256.
And that was 31%, did you say?
That was just over 31%, just over 30% of the full respondents, yeah.
Okay.
Of the population.
That's great, thank you.
Other questions?
No, I just want to say thank you very much, and nice seeing you again.
Seeing you.
All right. You always have a smile on your face, which is great.
Make me smile.
All right. But thank you for this. This is great information here that not only COA can use, but we can also use ourselves. And hopefully, when this gets put on the air, people will watch it and say, I'm interested with the COA, and let me find out about a newsletter.
Yeah, let's make sure we're with Area 58 that we're live on the 17th, so that. But no, it's great data, very positive data. I mean, it's really positive stuff that we can use going forward. So that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your effort so far.
See you again soon.
Okay.
Okay, we move to the Select Board updates. We will start with Mr. Dunham.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll start with the easy stuff. That want to congratulate everybody for a wonderful job they did on Carver Old Home Day. The bake was delicious. Yes, even though I worked on it. A lot of vendors there, some excellent music. It's I'd like to see a few more people show up next year because it's a big way for us to celebrate Carver, but especially everybody that worked on it, they deserve a big round of applause. Second point, day after tomorrow, Carver Middle High School parking lot, Carver Night Out.
Are you in the dunk tank this year?
Not on your life. I think it's high time that the chair go ahead and do it and stop using its granddaughter for a shield. I can't do it. I've got my granddaughter with me.
And other members of the board are certainly welcome to participate in the dunk tank as well. But go on.
Oh, and as the newest member, I think Bob, you ought to be going. It's nice and refreshing on a hot day.
I have no problem with it, but I have to work.
We'll bring the dunk tank to you. How's that? But no, seriously, the parade takes off out of the old fire station. There'll be police cruisers, ambulance, fire trucks. Police and the union do a great job of bringing in the SWAT team vehicles. I don't know if they're got a helicopter, state police helicopter coming in this year or not, but it's really a great time, and it's a good chance to meet all the first responders of town, and I highly recommend everybody going out. There's free food. It's always a good take. There's raffles, 50-50, like say the dunk tank, and a lot of the equipment is really, if you've never dealt with it, is really neat to go ahead and get hands-on, and it's kind of fun to watch the kids, hop around on the hovercraft and the SWAT vehicles and stuff. So it's a good time no matter what age you are. So I strongly recommend it. That's Thursday night, 5 to 9. They've been working very closely with the Board of Health, who I would also like to thank with this EEE. They'll be spraying that area before the Carver Night Out. However, they do recommend that you go ahead and bring some bug spray. I've talked briefly with the chief. They will have some bug spray you can put on. You can't keep it and go home with it, but they'll have some that you can go ahead and do. Other than that, I have to admit I saw something that was a little troubling in the Carver Reporter. I understand fully why it was put in. There was a letter to the editor, and you could tell from the way it was written, the author was rightly upset and had no problem with that. I've never had any problem with anybody going ahead, and it's their right, the person's right to write to the letter to the editor and state facts that they believe as they are. And I've got no problem with that. When I have a problem, and after what I experienced last December into early January, I decided that I am not going to just, if I'm more or less either slammed intentionally or inadvertently, I'm going to seek to set the record straight. So there was one sentence in here. Perhaps it would be appropriate to ask those members of the board who voted to remove our park/playground why they didn't listen to the residents who elected them. I have a problem with that, with all the votes we took. I always made sure my vote was to make sure that the residents' voice would be heard. They would get their chance. On the first vote of December 4th, 2018, we went ahead and changed the vote from just approving the building committee recommendation to including a phrase, nothing would happen to the playground until funding was secured for the new facility, new playground. Then at a meeting on April 6, 2019, there was a motion made to remove that last, qualifying sentence. 3 members of the board, Ms. Ewens, Dave Robertson, and myself, were very much opposed to that. We felt that we had promised the citizens that we were going to go ahead and give them the final say. That's why we had it going to town meeting. And I'm happy to say that that motion to remove that protection failed in a 2-3 vote. And then, of course, we had town meeting where we had the vote and the people had a chance to have their say. And for those who may not remember, the final Article 2, which was the article in question, passed with 261 yes and 77 no. That's over a 2-to-1 margin. So did I represent everybody's feelings? You never can up here. You're always going to go ahead and be against somebody's point of view or desire. But I feel, and I think I was vindicated in my votes anyway, looking at that final vote at town meeting, that yes, I was representing the citizens of the town of Carver who voted to me. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Like I say, I have no problem with the author writing the letter. I understand why the author did it. If I was in the author's shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. I would have to be working very hard to stay off social media to answer it. But I've been told by very good friends and cohorts, stay off social media. And I'm endeavoring to do that. But I just wanted to clear that one up. To be randomly accused of not representing the people who voted for me, that just that bothers me, and I wanted to clear the air, so I appreciate that. I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Belbin,
Thank you.
you never know where I'm going to go next, Bob. You got to be ready.
All right. So I want to thank the DPW and all its crews for all the work they're doing around town. The paving, pothole repair, landscaping, tree work. It's keeping you guys very busy, and it's hot out there. I want to make sure that people understand that our town workers are working diligently on our town, and I want to say thank you to them. The next one is the police department. Continue to patrol the beaches. They're making a huge impact there. Their response to citizens' concerns are great, and their professionalism is superb. So kudos to them. And then the next one is the fire, police, and ambulance services, and they have responded to numerous accidents that have been challenging over the past month. And I want to thank them for their quick response, their care and experience that they perform in our community. I'll address that a little bit further down, which is now, how can our town address safety concerns with dangerous intersections in areas of towns? Main Street in South Meadow, people have always said they want to see a light. I hear that. I've talked to people about that, and maybe that has to be brought up at some point about putting a light there for safety concerns for that street. And then where I live on Gate Street, that curve around Gate Street has had numerous accidents. That telephone pole has been hit so many times since I've been there, and the telephone pole keeps on getting placed in a different place because of it. It's a dangerous curve. And what can we do to protect our citizens? Because as that telephone pole moves, if you're going east on Gate Street, if you go too fast, you're going to hit a house over here. And if you're going west, you're going to go up a hill and into the guy's fence. And there's a couple other streets in town I didn't mention, but they also maybe have to look at, and the police and fire department can come in and talk to us about how we can handle those with the DBW, different situations in town that have high impact of accidents. Next one is the beach, to create a beach committee for all the beaches. We used to have them in Pembroke for each beach. There was a committee that took care of them. Maybe that's something through the recreation committee that we can have committees to help. And it's not just to just make sure and monitor the beach, but it's also turn around and create different plans and opportunities and how to make it better, or to create something new, and to have a cookout or something out there for a cleanup day or whatnot, something like that. Somebody had brought up lifeguards, no lifeguards on the beach, and that's an issue because it's tough to get people to go in to be a lifeguard. You can't wait till the summertime to say, hey, we need a lifeguard now, because they're not out there. We have to prepare in the wintertime for them to get their training, all right, become a lifeguard, and then turn around and hire them after that, because there aren't a lot of people going for lifeguards. So our kids in high school, great opportunity to become a lifeguard. Tennis court removal in Sampson's Pond, that's always an issue. Removing that tennis court would open up the area. It would also be a visual for the police department as they drive by, because cars can park in the back area. No one can see what's going on. If they're driving by Lakeview Street, they can look over and see if the fences weren't there and all the bushes and everything growing up. And I'd be willing to help volunteer my time to go down there and cut some stuff up and help take it apart. Next one is one of the residents, there's a playground on Bates Pond area that we have, and I went down there one day and I stopped and talked to a gentleman, and he said, you know what? He says, I never see the town around here doing stuff or whatnot, but there's a guy that lives right over here, and he's been coming out here and mowing the lawn and weed whacking it, and I wish I knew the guy's name, because he didn't know the person's name, but whoever that is that's taking care of that, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and the town does too, all right? And next on my list is, we already discussed that. We'll move on. We'll move on that one. The school budget. With the state coming in and saying they're gonna give more money to the school budget, will that affect us in more money coming to our town?
Yeah, we're not gonna get any more money, I don't think.
Oh, well, I wasn't sure. I'm just bringing it up, find out what's going on. Okay, the abatement process, that was another person. They had discussed issues of abatements, and how do you do abatements, and if the assessing department or the tax collectors could have a little meeting or whatnot with residents to say, hey, we're gonna show you how to do abatements, what abatements are, all right, the assessors, and something like that as an outreach service for the town. Because there is money in that budget for the abatements that the town puts in every year. The other one is the 50/50 insurance that we moved to. Is that really benefiting the town as much as we're going to get back into it? At some point, we may have to look at that, about hiring, we're hiring, and is that the best thing for us to have as a 50/50 insurance policy for our employees that work for us? All right. I'll skip that one. Affordable housing, I think that we should really be looking at affordable housing. I'm going to probably bring this up every meeting because something's got to be done with affordable housing. And it's not just for senior citizens, but it's for our young folks too. All right, our kids that are in their 20s and 30s, unless they've gone to college and have a really good degree, and even some people go for a master's degree and they still don't have a very good job that can pay for housing. All right, so they're still living at home. These are, it's really difficult. So I think our bylaws need to look at this and grow with the times. And this is something that the town has to focus on. And if we have a housing plan, we have to implement some of those things in the housing plan, all right, through our bylaws. And we have to promote that. Which brings on bylaw committee. Some of our things in our bylaws, they contradict each other. And I think we have to look at our bylaws every year, every 5 years, and say, all right, what's conflicting? And if they are conflicting from this bylaw and this bylaw, then we need to change it. All right, we need to turn around and format it so that it's standardized, that we know this is the issue, and it gives clear guidance to our building inspector, who's our zoning enforcement officer, to our health agent, to our conservation agent, that they have clear guidelines and there's not ambiguity into it. The nuisance bylaw, I did get that. I'm starting to review that myself, but I would like to turn around and have some type of a discussion with the residents at some point to go over that and craft a bylaw that's acceptable to everyone about what is a nuisance and a problem. I mean, here we have a resident coming before us with an illegal business. There's no business license at all in the town, or even their notices that they have. He doesn't have a license in Plymouth either. So, I mean, this is a nuisance that we need to take care of. But there are other ones here in the town that we have to take care of too. But we need those tools for our agents. Town meeting proposals and petition articles, if you're going to have one, I think people need to get out there and start crafting them now for the next town meeting. So you can turn around and get through the process as quick as possible and give everyone an opportunity to know what you want to talk about, to make sure it's legal so when we go to town meeting that we can actually turn around and vote on it. One of the ones that I'm looking at also is a fence bylaw that I'm starting to create as the fence viewer, that there's some guidelines and not everyone may not like it, but the bottom line here is what I suggest is that fences have to be, before you construct a fence, you have to do a survey. And then once your survey is done, you should do 2 feet off of the property line so you can maintain both sides of the fence. Those are my suggestions here to an extent, but like I said, I'll bring that forward later. And then parks and walking trails and everything, I just want to make sure that they're all protected in perpetuity, to that we have those documents, that we make sure that we do protect them. When this one is built, we do that, but we also look at the other properties that we have that we need to protect in perpetuity. And that's it.
Wow. It's good. Ms. Hewens.
Thank you. I also wanted to mention the Carver Night Out. I'm not going to be able to make it. I had a prior commitment, but in the years past, I know it's really important to be there early because there's a really nice parade of safety vehicles, and it's kind of exciting no matter how old you are. So be sure to get there at 5 because they're prompt.
And they're loud.
Yeah, but they're fun. They're not.
Yeah,
they're not
fun.
scary loud. Yeah. Okay. I'd also like to see us at some point soon have some kind of item on the agenda to talk about what we discussed in terms of our goals and objectives, the communication with the public, some kind of town hall meetings, whatever the board ends up deciding. You know, it is supposed to be something that we were going to do, but we still haven't done it. So I don't want to forget that as a goal. And then to one of Bob's points about affordable housing, and I know this is not directly in our purview, but it's something that it's important for people to know that years ago we approved the use of apartments over businesses in town. So for example, over the post office, over any kind of business in town that has an upstairs. So those apartments, creating apartments over businesses that have 2 floors is now legal. The problem is no one's doing it. And I'd love for us to find some way, and this is probably more for you, Jim, for us to incentivize those building owners. They have one tenant downstairs, they could have another one upstairs. And that's just the kind of housing I think that, would help our kids be able to come back to town too, because they would be small enough, they're hopefully affordable enough. And I do think it is more than just senior housing. Senior affordable housing is extremely important in this town as the population ages, but also we need to look at some housing for other populations. And seniors could live above businesses as well. So, but there's some incentive that we need to do that we're missing, and I don't have the answer. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. I also want to congratulate all the volunteers that took part in Carver Old Home Day. I won't go over everything Selectman Dunham said, but I've always thought since I moved to Carver that Old Home Day was one of the things that made Carver very special, and that doesn't happen without all the volunteers that take part. So thank you. I also want to talk a little bit about Carver Night Out on August 8th. One of the things that makes Carver Night Out so special and so successful is that a lot of the other neighboring towns around us do their night out on National Night Out, but Carver doesn't. Carver does theirs a couple of days later, which means that we have a lot of different displays and different vehicles that take part in ours that aren't able to take part in all the others because they go here and some go here, some go there, but they all come to Carver. So it's special, and I've been to a number of them, and Carver is always larger than a lot of the surrounding towns. So if you haven't been before, please try to get out because I think you'll really enjoy it. Saturday, August 31st is Carver Day at King Richard's Fair, so make sure you make note of that on your calendar. I don't know if this will make it onto YouTube or onto TV before August 8th, but the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources is going to be doing an aerial spraying of Carver on August 8th, so hopefully this information gets out to everybody
Hopefully not
in
while
time.
the Carver Night Out is taking place.
I don't know the time. I've got to call into them, but and one final thing, Massachusetts tax-free weekend is August 17th and 18th. So mark your calendars and take advantage of that. And that's all I have. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few things. Someone asked me what the policy is in terms of recording department, board, committee meetings. And to this point in time, it's been a case where it's been up to the committee to decide if they want to have it recorded or not. So the question came up is that should we have a policy where every committee is recorded? So I'm going to have that put in the agenda for discussion the next time through because it has some financial implications. Right now, Area 58 pays for 130 meetings in the town of Carver. They pay for meetings in Carver, Plimpton, and Halifax are 3 towns that they handle. And we always end up exceeding our meetings just with who we have now. If we were to add some of the boards and committees in that are not currently being recorded, it's basically $50 for 2 hours and then additional monies beyond that. So I'll try to see if I can come up with some monies and we can have a discussion and see whether we want to keep it as it is and committee individual choice, or whether the assessors, when they meet at 10 o'clock on Wednesday mornings, should be recorded. So it'll be on a future agenda to discuss. The school committee would like to have a joint meeting with us. The 2 dates that they've suggested are Tuesday, the 24th of September, or Thursday, the 26th of September. So I wanted to ask the board whether or not
I'll check my schedule.
we feel comfortable committing to one of those dates.
I would have to check my schedule as well.
All right.
The dates again?
The 24th and the 26th, Tuesday and Thursday of September. Could I ask that you all email me back? And then that way, if I get a consensus, and basically whichever date most of you can make is the one we'll go with. Hopefully, just let me know whether Tuesday the 24th of September or Thursday the 26th would work. There would be a budget update then. In fact, they need us to vote on something at that time. And then just our general meeting at the same time. That one will probably be up here because there is going to be a budget component, and it probably will be televised, but we can discuss again for the future how we want to handle that.
I was going to say, because we've had that discussion, it was decided not to record.
Right, but since
if
there's
we're going
a...
to start doing budget things and stuff.
Yeah,
that
if there's a
has to
budget
be,
component, it should be televised, I think. Also, Cable Advisory Committee, we're moving forward towards the October 19th renewal contract with Comcast. We'll be having a public hearing in September to give everyone an update on what's going on relative to the Comcast renewal. Making things even a little more challenging is that the FCC recently changed the playing field and made some determinations that may have a negative impact on our funding. It didn't work out to be as bad as initially expected. One of the advantages we have is that we own our own iNet, the municipal loop that ties the town together. We own that ourselves. If we did not, this new ruling would give Comcast the ability to assign an in-kind charge for that and reduce the monies that they pay us by whatever they decide the value of that would be. We dodged that bullet. However, there are other components that they will be able to do that to, and so we're waiting to see how it's going to impact us. Bill Hewig, the attorney from Copeland and Page that's working with us on the contract renewal, indicates that we'll probably come out of this minimally because the FCC did not go as far in their ruling as had originally been feared, and because of the fact we own our own iNet, so that we dodged that. But just so you're aware, that's an issue that will have to be approached. And that is all I have. Before moving on, I do notice that I believe Scrubbit Car Wash is here, and I noticed they're down further on the, so rather than, if we can take that out of
Mr. Chairman, I
order.
move that we take them out of order.
Second.
Further discussion? Okay, we'll move on to request for change in Class 2 license, Scrubbit Car Wash, request to display vehicles. If you can give us your name and tell us why you're here.
Sure. Tony Lombardo, 5 Johns Pond Road. Sorry for coming back on my third time now about the same issue. However, originally we were unaware that to get a dealer plate so that when people do come by they could take it for a quick ride, that we needed to have a display area for the vehicles. Excuse me. And on the license it currently reads, don't quote me exactly, but it says storage only, no display, because we were happy to have a license and say we'll keep the cars behind the car wash. So now we were requesting that the east side of the building, there's a place to probably put 2 or 3 cars on the Plymouth Street side, and that would give us what we needed as far as getting the dealer plate so that they know that there's a viewing area for the cars. We could also just keep them behind the car wash. We're not opposed to that, but we really just would like the license to read something to do with, we have a display so that the state police and the RMV would say they're actually a dealership where they have a need for a license plate.
Can you describe again, if I'm standing at Cumberland Farms looking across, where are you thinking of the vehicles being?
Exactly, yeah. So it's at the exit of the car wash. We have crushed stone in between our building and the fence, and there's an area there right at the exit of the car wash. It's kind of behind the car wash on the corner. It's not closer to the street on the front side or the side. It's pretty much, I should have brought a copy of my own pictures that I gave you. Yeah,
They're in
thank you very
our
much.
We have
file,
them
yeah.
in our packet.
Yeah. So if you were over at Cumberland's, you would kind of be set back a lot further, but you'd be looking this way. And we did just move that dumpster, by the way, because it was in an awful spot. So it would just be an area right here that would fit 2 or 3 cars. And that way it would accomplish our needs as far as having a display area. And that's really about it, yeah.
So
We
they're
actually
not
sold
gonna
our 3rd vehicle today in the history of Scrubber Car Wash, so we're pretty excited about that.
They're not going to be visible off of Plymouth Street then, because that fence is there. Or are you
Not
going to pull that,
yeah,
or are you
not,
gonna
if
pull
you
that
were
fence
really
down?
looking, no, everything's going to stay as is, yeah. If you weren't paying attention to driving, I suppose you might be able to catch a glimpse at the very end near the intersection, but it's pretty much out of sight, although from the intersection, it was actually I believe, visually appealing. to see the 2 or 3 cars parked there. I really don't have many plans for.
So if you're parked at More Dogs, you get the best view.
You get the best view from More Dogs, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you get a dog and go buy a car.
Yeah.
I think we should probably set a limit as to how many they could be out there in view. I know
Yeah.
we've done that a couple other places. Looking at your spacing, I'm thinking like 3.
Yeah, that sounds about
I'll be
right.
interested to see what the rest of the board thinks.
Did we have a limit set on the number of vehicles that you could have?
5.
It was
Five,
5, okay.
So, if I may, Mr. Chair, so, Tony, when you came to us before, you had wanted to store them on the sort of more right-hand side of the building?
Yeah,
Now they're
directly
going to be sort of
behind.
more on the left, in back.
The original drawing was tucked around the corner, almost out of sight, and now, because we're trying to have that display area, we're just kind of shifting them over,
Right.
so it's in sight. I don't know if the
Actually
RMV
moving
would
them north.
actually, I don't know if they would allow a display area behind the building, or if they really are living by that word, saying they want you to be able to see it from the street. So, yes.
No, I think it's a better area, personally.
Yeah, it is. It would look nice. Actually, one of our customers said, "This is where you should put the cars." And I said, "Geez, you're right." And then come to find out, now we really need to put those cars there.
So
What do you- I'm sorry, go ahead.
my only real question for you is, and you've probably already done this, so forgive me for asking, but I know that planning board is in charge of, sales of things being displayed. Have you gone through them?
No, I don't believe. Originally, I did get like a sign-off letter where each head of the board, I believe, was looking at the request and signed off in order for me to come here originally. So I don't know if that was something that was necessary or not.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
you should probably just check,
Yeah,
just to
okay.
be sure.
Our vote could be contingent on him
Yeah.
checking with the
Yeah, sure.
planning board.
Tony, what do you use that area for now, where you plan on putting the cars?
To be honest, some of our workers park there, and by having 3 cars parked there for sale, it's probably going to look neater than it does on a regular business day, because we have one worker parked one way and another way. So it actually looked nice maybe with 3 cars just parked there.
So it wouldn't
If we even
change-
have 3,
Wouldn't change operations of the car wash
No,
or anything
everything
like
would be,
that?
it's really just an extra space on our property.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah. So I go that intersection all the time, and you actually guys do a great job there.
Oh, thank you.
And visually, I don't think there would be a big problem with having the cars there at all. I think you're talking about a site plan that was presented to the planning board. I don't know if that's needed or not, but it's worth a question to them.
Okay.
Because of the business that you're in, I don't think of a problem with it, since you already have a license that we've already approved.
Right.
And that the display is really, you're going to display them there or somewhere else. So I really don't have a problem with that. Thank you.
Probably his easiest first step would be to talk to the gentleman behind you.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the license we originally gave you was for storage, so that is different.
Yes, yeah.
So the question would be, do we want to have a motion to allow the display of the 3 vehicles?
I
in
move we
location?
allow the display of 3 vehicles contingent upon any requirements of the planning board.
Second.
Further discussion?
Would that be a maximum of 5 total on the site?
No,
Maximum
of visible 3. He can still keep his 5.
Stored
Okay.
to- So
Still keep the 5, 3 visible, 3 on display.
Total. Yeah, that doesn't change the amount of the
Right.
cars in the license,
Yep.
yeah.
I do have a random question that just popped in my head. Is there any way, I suppose the 3 display would be fine. I just didn't know if the RMV would be critical of anything. I guess I just don't want the word storage maybe on there, or I just want to make sure it reads the right way so that I don't do the same thing I've already done and come back.
Oh,
But
I see what you're saying.
I think
So-
that should be fine, or maybe we can make sure we write it up.
Maybe we can we have the understanding, and then you can just
Yeah.
indicate that they're displayed there, and then if we see that you're violating the spirit of our agreement.
That's right, yeah.
We
Well,
could-
more than 3 really won't fit there, so we
Yeah,
should be looking.
I don't think you could fit more than 3 over there anyway, but.
Hence why I suggested it.
All right, so I don't think we need to change our
Nope.
vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
So
Appreciate
again,
it.
just pop in and see the town planner some morning
Sure.
and run through the details and make sure that everything is compliant.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good
Sure.
night.
Thank you.
All right, now, going back to Select Board update. Update on beach permits for part-time residents that own property in town for $10 a year. Elaine, I guess I'll just explain quickly that I got an email from a town resident I shouldn't say a town resident, someone that owns a property over in South Meadow Village, and they own the house, but they are residents of Florida for their license purposes, but they're up here for 5 or 6 months during the spring and summer months. So they went to get a beach sticker, as they always have, in order to take their kayaks out on some of the local ponds, and we're told that you have to, the current rules say you have to be able to show a license that says you're a Carver resident. And so in talking with some of the folks that set up the rules and regulations, they weren't really contemplating this scenario. So I think what's being asked of us is, do we want to establish an exception that if they can bring, say, an electric bill showing that they're here for 5 months or whatnot, that that they'd have the ability to get a beach permit under those circumstances. There's always the danger, I think Elaine said, that some people that own vacation homes down here have sort of tried to get them and then give them to friends or whatever, but we have to have somewhat of an honor system, I guess. And I certainly don't think we want to penalize folks that legitimately own property in the villages or just anywhere, but they're not up here full time, but they reside in town for a period of time. So wanted to get the opinion of the board on that.
I don't think any system we enact is ever going to be perfect, but I certainly think that someone who summers here and owns property should have have an opportunity to get a beach sticker. So I would support that, whether it's a utility bill or what have you, but there has to be some way of doing that.
All right. Other comments?
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I don't either. I agree.
All right. Elaine, did you want to elaborate at all on the issue based on your experience?
I think if they can show a utility bill as proof, then that would be acceptable. If they don't show that, then that would not prove that they're living here.
Mm-hmm. So they need some sort of proof that they reside here.
Not just a tax bill.
Right. Other than a tax bill, right.
Utility bill, phone bill, something like that.
Someone want to make a motion to that effect?
I'd make that motion that we allow an exception for summer residents, provided they provide a utility bill as proof of residency.
There a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I believe the woman is not here this evening, but we do have the request to put gold ribbons on the lamp post in front of the library and on Meadowbrook Way.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the request.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have a request to approve a solar tax agreement for 59 Federal Road and 276 Federal Street for, I'm not sure what that says.
One says 11,941,020.
And
The other
7 million.
7 million.
Oh, megawatts. Okay, those must be megawatts.
Megawatt DC.
As previously approved by the Planning Board and Conservation Commission for construction that will follow Carver's financial management policies. A little more color around that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, these
Your microphone, please.
these are additional solar projects that are being done, I believe, on the Makepeace property, done by Borrego Solar. These will yield the town $229,124 for the first one, which I have to say is not the largest one we've done. Last meeting, you approved the largest solar project we've done. And the second one is $136,586 for the 7 megawatt.
And these are the 20 or 25 year?
These are all 20-year,
in lieu of taxes, pilot program.
Tax agreements, yes.
So is that the total for the 20 years or per year?
That's per year.
Okay, thank you.
And again, the contracts read identically to all those. There's no quirks or
changes, just
changes.
replace name and amount.
And when will these be hitting the?
These two, we're anticipating hopefully by, I believe it's July 1st of next year, if not sooner.
So they could be part of the 2021
Most likely
budget?
not, but could be.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions?
I
Motion?
move we approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Then we get an update from Bob Belbin on the refuse district and a possible vote.
And he's so looking forward to doing this.
All right, so being the new member of the Waste District, been diligent going to their meetings. The district has been doing a bunch of different things with our administrator. So I just want to bring you guys up to date with what's been transpiring so far.
When you say our administrator, you mean the district's?
The district's administrator, okay? So we've created some documents. We've looked at tonnage amounts of how much tons are going from Route 28 and also Benson Brook and going into Covanta. We looked at traffic. We've had traffic.
Excuse me, Benson Brook still open?
It is.
It is, okay.
Yes. Vehicular traffic going in, we've taken surveys, we had security out there, and they stopped many vehicles that didn't have stickers, old stickers. This was a short pilot program that we used. It got extended for a couple of weeks. Covanta paid for it because the information we got was vital for them because it actually cut down on tonnage that was actually getting put in there by people that didn't have stickers. But once the security is gone, which has been, I went down there and it kind of looks like it's starting to revert back again, all right, of people just dumping stuff in there. But to go forward, all right, we looked at proposed costs for the future. We've had discussions on that. We created a survey of the property where we actually had a surveyor out there. They surveyed the property. We tagged out for all the wetlands areas around that area. We looked at the original permit from Rochester. We looked at the DEP permits that we've had, where we're allowed 38 tons per day to deliver. We've created a conceptual plan to expand the property on Route 28. We've got numbers for adding a total of 6 compactors there to extend it, to reconfigure it. We've purchased some more recycle bins for the Benson Brook because what they had before is you had to go up 5 or 6 steps in order to dump it into the bins, but that's a safety risk. So we just authorized to get rid of those, bring in new ones. We put pricing out for new equipment. And we have money from Covanta that comes into Covanta, they pay us, and we have that money available to pay for all this equipment. So hopefully we don't have to go back to the towns and say, hey, we need more money. We do have money available for these upgrades. All right, we had Wareham, their DPW came in and helped clear up the area where they had composting up there because we're not allowed to compost due to the wetlands areas, and it actually looks a lot better. We still have a big pile there, but it's better than it was before.
Were we doing it illegally before?
No, we were allowed, but it's too close to the wetlands.
We were doing it illegally. We had cow horse manure that was going in there that was illegally. That's what the main product was.
Well, the horse manure, but there was leaves and other stuff there too, and brush. Okay. We had a site visit of the ABC facility across the street where they actually take in trash and they convert it and separate everything out. So hopefully they can take it and be more economically friendly by having all the paper here, the plastics here, out of the basic trash, instead of us recycling. Whoever's not recycling goes in there. And it's a great facility to go and visit. Okay. We did ask, a question was asked if they'd be interested in running our facility, which it was positive. Didn't say yes or no, just for running it if it needs to be. We took an inventory of the district assets of what we actually have there. We had some little discussions about closing the one in Marion on Benson Brook. No vote's been taken as of yet of what we're going to do or how we're going to do it. If it does close at some point, all the equipment will go to the Route 28 site. Then there's little discussions for what's going to happen after December 2020. We need the town here to let us know what you guys want to do with the district. I know an email got sent out with numbers and figures already. The district has not looked at those figures yet and actually have decided if this is all doable and everything. So it is what it is. It's there now, but I'm not going to discuss that tonight.
But the refuse district will go through the numbers, and then they'll give a recommendation out to Wareham and Carver, because Marion pretty much is out of the loop now because they've opted to go to a full trash pickup service, right?
That's correct.
So it's really going to be Wareham and Carver that are involved here.
Well, we don't know because they're still in the district. They still
Yeah.
have a voting. They have 3 votes with the district, as Carver has 3 and Wareham has 3. But no matter what, we have to make a decision. At some point, the town here has to make a decision if we're going to stay in the district or we're not going to stay in the district, okay? And if we don't stay in the district, I just went down there today, 1,800 stickers that went out, a little more than 1,800 stickers this year already have went out. So we have potentially 1,800 households that will have to find out, what are you going to do with your trash at the end of 2020? So on 2021, January 1st, what are you going to do with your trash? Okay, and can the private haulers that are around here that we have take in all that trash from these 1,700 households?
Well, the first step's going to be that the refuse district's going to have a meeting, be digesting all these numbers, and then kick out a recommendation to, will it be a recommendation or just the facts to the Wareham and Carver and Marion? And then we will then have to make our own determination at that point.
Well, the district will have to look at all these figures, all right, and see if they're accurate and see if there are other factors that go along with it. And we don't know certain things that are in it. So we have to just digest everything and then come up with a plan to say, okay, is this feasible? But we have 16 months now that we have to make a decision somewhere within this. And it's very difficult because I go there and dump my trash there, and I don't want to make this a personal thing to me, but I like options, okay? I don't want a trash hauler come and pick them up because I have a long driveway, and if I'm going to drag it all the way down there, I might as well throw it in my truck and drive down there, all right, on a day, and I do it 3 times a month. So, and other people do it twice a week, and some people do it, twice a month, and some people do it every week, and some people do it every other day.
But for our purposes, for the board's purposes, we're waiting on the refuse district to get back to us.
Correct, and I think
Then
that's...
at that point, it's on us to make a determination as to how we want to proceed as a town.
Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification? Is there a difference between us pulling out of the district versus the district just dissolving?
Well, see, that's a question, and I actually have our incorporating documents, and it's my opinion, just looking at these documents, that town meeting would have to say, we want to get rid of the district. So it would have to go to town meeting, and town meeting would have to vote for it. The district can come up and say, all right, we want to dissolve. I mean, there's 3 members of Carver that say, okay, we want to dissolve. 3 in Marion want to dissolve, and 3 in Wareham want to dissolve, okay? But it's all by a majority vote. So if you have 9 members and you have 5 of them that turn around and say, no, we want to keep it going, then it's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. All right. The good thing about it is that we have money to help do a lot of the things we're going to do in there. But there's an unknown variable, is cost and how many people are willing to do those costs to put their trash out there. There's another variable, that how much are private haulers going to cost? All right, because they're going to increase their fees too. And at what point do the private haulers' fees get this high, and how much the district fees get this high? Are people going to jump ship and go over here? Or they're going to turn around and jump ship because the private haulers are so expensive that, hey, I'll drive it down here instead and save myself some money. Like I said, I'm not putting out figures out there, all right, because I have my opinion on some of the figures and other things are floating around. I have my opinion, but I want the district to come back and let you guys know this is what's going on.
All right. We're going to need hard numbers from the district, not just opinion. Right. No, I mean, I don't want to,
And Bob and I were discussing this today, and as Bob just said, depending what the number is, all we can do is come up with a good guess as to what's going to happen, because we talked about North Carver Water District, where we were told...
Going to bring that up.
We were told that it's all paid for, everyone's already signed up, and
Coming
then...
in, there'll be lots of money.
Okay. We're paying so if we might do a survey and find out that 2,000 residents say they're willing to pay $250, but when push comes to shove, they say, to heck with that, for the extra $30, I'll hire a hauler. And we're going to have to go through a year, because it could work the other way too. The hauler price could go up too high, and more people decide they're going to take their own trash. We're going to have to gut it out for a year, I think, making the best guess we can, if that's the course we decide to go.
So this is my analogy here. I'm going to put it with the North Carver Water District. All right, North Carver Water District went to town meeting, and we all voted in favor of it, all right, with the intent that, okay, fine, we're going to get this. And it didn't happen. And we're stuck with it because all the infrastructure's there, and we've already started, okay? The waste district is different, okay? We can walk away at any time. Now, we still have liability because we have employees that are on the retirement, so we still have to pay for that. So technically, the district will still be technically alive to an extent, but just to make sure that we can pay the bills and whatnot, and that can be changed in the agreement. But if we stayed on for a year, see how it went, extended another year, see how it went, we can turn around and walk away. We can have our 3 members here say, you know what, private haulers are this, and we walk away, and we don't have that long-term hundreds of $1,000s bill every year to pay off. Okay, we have a small amount, but that's not enough. That's not a whole heck of a lot, to be totally honest. All right. The other ways to save money, and I hate privatizing, but I mean, if we paid somebody to go do it, we then don't have that long-term liability for new employees, because the private hauler, the private person that's taken over of it. But we have control. The biggest thing is tonnage. I think that's a stickling point for me, is how much ton of trash that we're going to turn around and put out. Okay, and that amount right now we can't control because of Covanta. They're in charge. They don't care what you throw in there. Put it in there, send it down. We don't care. We're going to burn it no matter what. Okay, the district takes over. We have control. We can say, we don't want that. You can't drop that in here. You have to do this. Okay, we can turn around and show people this is what recycling is all about. Okay, this is how you recycle the right way. If you want to save, quote, money to an extent, if you recycle this, we have less tonnage going in this area, and it's going over here instead, maybe less money than what we're actually paying. All right, but I just want you guys to understand that the district will have to come back and turn around and let you guys know that these are the numbers that we've agreed upon in those numbers and figures. And then that will be, I think the 21st is our next meeting, to let you guys know. Yes.
So basically, though, we're not going to need to make a vote tonight.
Not tonight, but I want you guys to be aware, and I want the residents to be aware, all right? If you don't have a private hauler, okay, and this does dissolve, we could have problems with trash in the town, all right? Because if people don't want to pay the money for either one, where's that trash going to go? It could be our side streets, it could be bogs. It could be wetlands or rivers or whatever.
Could be burn barrels.
And it could be burn barrels. It can also...
Can I, hold on, wait a minute, well, just stop for that for a second, okay? Because we've had a department head meeting on trash in the town, and right now, with Covanta, with the refuge, we still get illegal dumping in town. So whether or not Covanta is there or not, there's going to be illegal dumping. Second, the Board of Health is already moving forward to put in regulations so that the town can actually fine people and the money is collected in the town. So the Board of Health is already ahead of the curve in trying to address that. In addition to that, the police department is addressing this with trail cams that they're putting out in certain areas, as well as with the DPW. So, the town, the public safety knows where there's issues. They have a plan to address this. I don't want anyone to think that the moment that closed down, people are going to start throwing garbage in our rivers.
So, to get on with this, okay, there is the possibility of people not knowing where to put their trash and what's going to happen, and the town could pick up those costs. okay, of cleanup of these areas.
Well, I mean, yeah, I
So-
mean, there's going to be some of that, but the other thing you and I discussed is the fact taxpayers should not end up subsidizing people that want to choose. You know, that's the other thing, that we want to make sure that if we go forward with a self-sustaining Route 28 stays open, that the people that have chosen to take their own trash are paying for that. That it doesn't. I don't end. If I have my own trash hauler, I shouldn't end up subsidizing for you to have the option to go down there.
And I totally agree with that. The town should not have to pay for my trash to get disposed of, okay? It should be upon me and whoever uses the system that it has to be self-sustaining, all right? In the agreement, the district can assess a fee to different the towns in the district. They have that ability to do that. But the last time we actually waived the fee for this time, so it saved the town money. And I mean, we pay $50 a sticker. Wareham and Marion pay $10 a sticker. So we gain, like, I'll say $75,000, $80,000 from our sticker fees right now at $50, and the town kept that money. So I mean.
But the future, it would be the district issuing the stickers.
Would. And one of the other things that was discussed at our last meeting is the stickers, is that the district should pay for the stickers. We issue them out to the towns, and therefore, we have control of what numbers go with what. So Carver would be like 0 to 3,000 or 4,000, and then 401 to Wareham. So there's a control on those stickers, so make sure that people aren't getting stickers that they're not supposed to, and that we can go back and make sure, because right now, we just see the sticker with a license number and that's it. To go back and try to find out who issued that, and it's really difficult. But with a number, we can actually do that. So we've done a lot of work. I shouldn't say we, but our administrator, he's done a lot of work for us, and he's very professional. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm really glad that he's part of our team on the district.
All right, so we'll look forward, I guess, in September to getting an update as to where things stand.
Yes, sir.
After the meeting of the 21st. All right, thank you. We go to the town administrator update.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, sir.
I apologize, but I really got to get going.
Oh.
So, my
Okay.
apologies.
So, Mr. Chairman, just an update, giving the hours late. I will try to move through these items relatively quickly. As far as year-end closeout, all budgets were able to be balanced, and there was no need of any budget transfers that required the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen to meet this year. And that's kudos going out to all of our departments, especially Chief Dufley, who was able to continue to bring his budget into the black, as well as other departments do, but most police departments in most towns never do that, and I just want to call him out specifically for that. I've mentioned I'll give a periodic update on the town clerk's office, and there were some statements that were made that staffing was going to be an issue and there were going to be problems down there, nothing was going to get done. According to the personnel down there, they think the clerk's office and the staffing is working fantastic. They have no issues. They think it's working better than it may have been in the past. Again, just sharing that information with you. The Operation and Maintenance Department is working on several paving projects around town. High Street is being done. Was done. Beaver Dam Road is part of that's going to be done, and also 58 to Montello, from Montello to Plymouth Line is in line to be done as well. The Rochester Bridge is finally started to go forward under some of its deconstruction, so that's moving along. Let's see. Moving forward to the next item, the Mass Works Infrastructure Grant. Working on the Route 44 project with the developers, Jim Walsh, our new planning director. Jim, come on up. So first, actually, let me introduce Jim. Jim started a little over 3 weeks ago. Jim has a few decades of experience in planning and also in economic development. He's worked for regional planning agencies. He's worked for other municipalities. We're very happy to have him started, and since he's been here, he's hit the ground running, including working with me on a few different grant applications and a couple of big projects that are in the pipeline. We're very fortunate to have Jim, and I think you've gotten involved with the staff pretty quickly, too.
Wel- Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with the Mass Works Infrastructure Grant, this is to improve some of the transportation improvements that were tied into the MIPA project down at Montello Street as it connects to Route 58. We were going to realign the intersection down there and square that off. So there's a grant application that I'll be putting in later this week with Jim's assistance. That'll be about $3 million grant request. In addition to that, both Jim and the Vice Chairman, Mark Townsend, and I have had the opportunity of meeting with the Secretary of Economic Development, Secretary Keneally, and just gave him a briefing on this, thanks to the efforts of Representative Gifford for setting up that meeting. So we gave him a briefing on that, and he's fully aware of what this project is going to be. His predecessor, Secretary Ash, also visited the town in past years and made sure his staff was aware of that. So that grant is being submitted, as I said, at the end of this week. With that, Jim, you want to talk a little bit about the Municipal Energy Technical Assistant Grant?
Sure. I'm calling it the Meta Grant. We submitted that last week. It's for technical assistance to look at the town parking lots. Last year at town meeting, the town approved looking at the feasibility of putting solar canopies over all the town parking lots. And so this grant will pay for technical assistance for someone to take a look at each of the lots to see where it's actually feasible. And then from there, that'll be used to draft some conceptual plans as well as bid specifications so the town could go out and bid out to prospective solar developers to come in and lease the air rights over the parking lots. And then the town could also benefit by getting the electricity from those canopies and providing electricity for the town buildings.
So this is, although distinct from the Greens Community Act, it is somewhat related to that. We're also working with Dave Siegentoff and Jim as well on the Greens Community Act and getting all the paperwork in there so we can secure, I think, probably close to a little over $100,000 of grant revenue once that comes online. So again, Jim's been really busy already. So that's kind of what we have for some of the grants that are coming. And anything else I missed, Jim?
Well, I just comment, some of the members mentioned affordable housing and mentioning the affordable housing above commercial uses. We did have someone come into the town hall today interested in doing that. We did look at I met with also with our building commissioner. We did look at the zoning, and there's some maybe some tweaks to the zoning that will help make it more user-friendly for prospective developers to come in and use the provisions of that ordinance.
Excellent. Thank you.
And he's going to submit some more information to us so that we can maybe meet and convene internally so we can say, okay, is there a way we can do this now, or do we have to wait a year to make changes to the bylaws to make that something that's doable for prospective developers?
In addition to that, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, we did hire Dan Badger to come in and kind of take a look at some of our cultural, social service issues, recreation, and affordable housing. And he is working with Jim and I on that analysis. Primarily what we're going to be looking at for affordable housing, in addition to what Jim just mentioned, is veteran housing. And, as we look through this town from the age 55 and older, looking at demographics, we have plenty of facilities available with some of our villages. Where there is a need in this community is under 55, and that is something that we are looking at. But on the flip side is everyone has to recognize that we do not have public sewer in town. Therefore, it's not a conducive place for apartment complexes to go up unless they come in under a 40B. But the governor continues to still look at legislation for accessory apartments, which is something that could probably fit in better in a community like Carver than a multi-story apartment building. So, these are things that we are looking at, and when our reports ripen, we will bring those to the board to provide an update on that.
Michael, when you mentioned that we're working toward the Green Community Act, do you think that's something we'll be able to accomplish this year, to apply for grants this year, or do you think we're still looking farther down the road on that?
We have Serpent tied into that. I believe we will be in a position where the grant should be awarded next spring as it relates to it. I think we have to get our paperwork in later on this month and some additional paperwork in September they're working on. We're actually having an energy audit through all of the towns. When we do have the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, there is a vote that both boards need to take on future vehicles. And once that's done, I think that may be our last component we have to submit in to complete the application.
Right.
And then it starts. So that is moving along pretty aggressively, and we do have Serpent helping us on that.
Thank you.
Let me jump on to the next item, mosquito control. And just to provide a little bit more clarification, my original update was going to be is that Marion and Wareham had been sprayed, and the DPH was evaluating Carver, and that was as of this morning. But with that, through the health department, he was able to have a conference call with DPH, and they are going to conduct a town-wide aerial spraying for Thursday night, weather permitting. There will be several nights of spraying. They are aware of Carver's Night Out. We do have a big town, so they can stay out of that area. For Carver's Night Out, there is going to be a localized on-the-ground spraying by Plymouth County ahead of that. That may have already taken place, but that was already going to be fogged anyway before the meeting. It's fogged every year before the meeting, before the event. They're going to be emailing further information out to the office later today, so we'll have that. And I'll have that in the morning. Their presentation also stated that the pesticides they use pose no human risk and no special precautions to the town residents is required. Drinking water, cranberry bogs, and beehives will be monitored and tested by DPH. Past monitoring has showed no issues or concerns.
So, okay for humans and pets?
I would assume so, yes, and that's why they're going to continue to update us with additional information in the morning. So that's what we have for mosquito control.
Michael, do you know on that, 'cause I did have a couple of residents reach out to me on this, to ask about the spraying. I guess there was a way you can call in and request that they don't spray for whatever reason near a home or something like that. You can get it on the I don't know if it's a no spray list or what it's called, but do you have any information about that at all?
So I believe, and I have not specifically asked that question, but what I have been told in the past is when they come through and do just road spraying, you can actually have them turn off their sprayer near your property. When they're doing aerial, they're doing it for public health reasons, and they're doing the whole town. They're doing it in a grid pattern. We will check on that, but when it's being done aerial, my understanding is it's being done to protect everyone's health.
Okay.
That's there, and again, according to them, they have this whole thing tested.
Thank you.
Which actually is a good way to lead into the next topic, and the first thing I just want to point out, I think it's irresponsible for information to get out that states that there has been detected determination or water testing that has proved positive for 1,4-dioxane in public people's drinking water supply. That has not happened. And that's what I needed to interrupt before, is that when statements are made, that's irresponsible, that we need to make sure that that's corrected, because if someone's still not watching when I'm talking right now, they could be leaving thinking that there's contamination in the drinking water supply in people's residence property. So with that, just to provide a little bit more clarification, and if I could pass out, I'm going to pass out this document that I just received late this afternoon from our consultant that has been coordinating everything with DEP. Let me first begin, and again, I want to focus on there's
Thank you.
Groundwater standards that are done by EPA, and then there's recommended standards that are done by the state DEP. And with those standards, they have you either pass or you fail. You either have contamination or you don't have contamination. Everything in our society, no matter how much you test it, whether you're in parts per millions, parts per billions, parts per trillions, you can find a trace of something in something. So with that, the regulators have determined what is acceptable to human health and what isn't. Focusing on the 1,4-dioxane, that is not a federally regulated drinking water issue. It's regulated state by state. The ranges run from, some states have 30 parts, whereas Massachusetts has one of the lowest, which is 0.3 parts per billion. And again, 30 parts versus 0.3. Totally different spectrum because it's something that's still being reviewed by all the regulators. In addition to that, Tide detergent, up until this was something that was being reviewed, had 50 parts per. And again, we're 0.03 is what's the detected or the non-detected. So you had an issue down in Easton where people were washing their clothes and actually contaminating their groundwater because they were putting in 50 parts when it's 0.3 next to the drinking water supply. In Carver, no private well drinking water supply has ever had a detect test as part of this project. Again, I gotta make that clear. I don't want any false information going out there. So, you know, that is where malfeasance comes into play, is when incorrect information is presented. We did have one well, and this was identified back in 2017. Now, as you look at your memo in here, let me start with the memo, and I can fill this in as we're going along here. The first paragraph talks about, here, Jim, I'll give you a copy. In 1993, as part of the North Carver landfill, the town installed groundwater pump and treat to remove specific landfill-related contaminants from groundwater and extended public water homes on Lincoln Drive and along Green Street. So because of that contamination, there was an extension done to our public water supply through Plymouth, through Middleborough to extend to those houses. For 25 years, we've had a groundwater pump and treat system effectively controlling the migration of the groundwater plume up gradient of privately watered drinking water supplies. So when that landfill was capped, it was put on an impermeable surface or cover was put on that. So no rainwater would go into it, and then groundwater would leach out of that. That happened as part of the landfill closure. For decades, that water was treated. That water was treated to, there was no more water to be treated. Water was still coming in, but the water that was coming in was clean. There was nothing to treat in it. And that was, for those that were on the board at the time, we had an issue with our consultant at the time, and that consultant was under a review by our police department for bills that we were receiving that we didn't think were appropriate. When we received those bills and we threatened to cancel this contract, we then mysteriously received a bill for an exorbitant amount of money to come in and upgrade the whole plant because they just found a 1,4-dioxane in one of the wells they had. And that well, and just to note, is that the plant that was there was never designed to treat 1,4-dioxane. It was never even a chemical that was being reviewed at that time. It was not until either 2016 or 2017 that DEP recommended for all landfills that that chemical be tested for. The first time, and this is important, the first time that well was tested, it was non-detect. The next time that well was detected, and before the second time, was when we were threatening to cancel a contract with that vendor. That's when we had the one and the only detect from that well that was not a public drinking water supply. After that, we've had 4 other tests on that specific well. None of those tests have ever shown up at detect. They are all reported as they don't meet the requirements. When we found that one test that was done back in, specifically, November of 2017, as part of the requirements, we had to then go within 500 feet to test all private wells around there. That would give us permission to test their private wells. When that occurred, we tested 4 wells. 4 wells gave us permission to do that. In all 4 of the wells, there was non-detect. Again, it's either you pass or fail. None of those wells exceeded the drinking water, exceeded the 0.3 requirements for the state. From there, we've had numerous tests on those wells and additional houses around there. None of those additional houses have ever triggered a positive reading, despite what you heard earlier that no one was able to refute. So, moving forward in the memo, second paragraph. Since the pump and treat system started operating, the town's consultants have collected many rounds of groundwater samples throughout the area to monitor the effectiveness of the landfill closure and to pump and treat the system. By 2016, the landfill closure had effectively reduced the concentration of contaminants in the groundwater to below Mass DEP standards before the plume reached the pump and treat area. By 2016, the pump and treat system had reached its operational life and was shut down. The town has continued to routinely monitor monitoring of groundwater and has confirmed that the pump and treat system is no longer needed. The results of the long-term monitoring program and the conclusion to not repair and restart the treatment plant has been reported to DEP. Mass DEP regulations for municipal landfills require monitoring of groundwater for a list of constituents related to historic disposal of municipal waste. Mass DEP periodically reviews the list of potential constituents and adds parameters to the landfill monitoring program. Around 2016, Mass DEP required landfill monitoring programs statewide to augment to determine if 1,4-dioxane was present at very low levels in groundwater. By the way, Mass DEP has evaluated raising their standard from 0.03 to 0.3. They just haven't acted on that, but they have memos on looking at raising it. Again, we have not had anybody, residents, exceed the number. Mass DEP has established a drinking water guidelines of 1,4-dioxane through the Office of Research and Standards. That's what we have to pay attention to. What is the standard? Are you above or are you below it? 1,4-dioxane is used as a stabilizer in chlorinated solvents and is present in many products including paint, varnish remover, antifreeze, and an impurity in some personal care products and detergents. The original pump and treat system was not designed to treat and remove 1,4-dioxane from groundwater because 1,4-dioxane was not identified as a contaminant of concern when the facility was designed and constructed 25 years ago. In May 2017, the town began sampling all existing groundwater monitoring wells. We have many around the site for 1,4-dioxane as required by DEP. In November 2017, a sample collected from a monitoring well had a concentration of 1,4-dioxane exceeding the Mass DEP guidelines. Again, the one and only sample. The previous sample of that was below. Based on this result, the town collected samples in January 2018 of all private wells along Plymouth Street located within 500 feet of the monitoring well, as required to do, again, if we were given permission. The town has continued to collect samples from these private wells every 6 months. To date, which we actually don't have to do, to date, none of the samples collected from the private wells have had concentrations of 1,4-dioxane exceeding the drinking water guidelines. One prior sample conducted from the monitoring well and the 5 samples collected since 2017 has not had detectable concentrations of 1,4-dioxane above Mass DEP guidelines. These results have been reported as required to the regulators. When we have a hit, we have to report that within 2 hours. So when that hit was done, that one hit in 2018, that was reported. Because the drinking water samples have not contained concentrations, and again, because the drinking water samples come out of wells, have not contained concentrations of 1,4-dioxane above the guidelines, the town could have discontinued collecting samples in the private wells in accordance with Mass DEP regulations. We could have. However, the town has committed to the residents to continue to collect samples from the private wells twice a year and have them analyzed for 1,4-dioxane at a Mass DEP approved laboratory. These are third-party independent laboratories. The results were reported to Mass DEP with copies provided to the residents. If there is an exceedance of the guidelines, the town will take appropriate corrective actions. So in addition to not being required to test beyond the first time for the drinking water supplies, we continue to test at an expense to the town. In addition to that, when that first happened, because we were concerned about the residents and knew that, people read things and sometimes things take on a life of their own, but technically they're not there. Sometimes things are exaggerated. Sometimes people may have health issues. Some people may just be concerned. Sometimes just for peace of mind. That's when we offered and have continued to allow people to buy bottled water, and we reimburse them for that, for those houses. And to me, that's good public policy. It's good public policy because it was our dump. It's good public policy because there was one mysterious hit, and thank God it's only one. Beyond that, we've done extra testing that we're not required to do, and we've required extra bottled water that we're not required to do. And that is the summation of where we're at. And I wish I would have had a chance just to not allow some people to go home thinking that some people's drinking water supply is contaminated with 1,4-dioxane, because it's not.
Anything else?
No, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, I understand DEP has their levels, okay? Is there an amount level of the dioxine that's detectable in any of these results?
As I stated earlier, in all water results, there's always some chemical, there's always some product, there's always some arsenic, there's always some lead, there's always some salt. It depends how low you go down to test it. As stated in the memo, first of all, there's no EPA drinking water requirements, so let's deal with that. Second, these are Mass DEP recommendations that they have in there, and it's all based upon their Office of Research and Standards. So from a municipality, from a regulator, from a licensed environmental site professional, it's either it passes or it fails. It passes or it fails. That's what we have to go by.
Okay, but that doesn't answer my question.
I did answer your question.
Michael, is there a level, and what is that level of the dioxine 1.4? Do we have that actual number? Because I know there's a number that's acceptable. Yep. All right, because I remember discussions before that even bottled water has dioxine at some level to it too, yes, from what was discussed. I was just wondering what that level was. If it was detected, how much of a level is it that was detected?
Every well is different. Every well has a different number. Some have nothing. Some have some smidgen that's in there, but none of the wells tested above what's allowed.
What's the allowable level?
0.03 in this state. In other states, it's 30.
All right, so other states it's 30. Ours is 0.03.
Yep.
So that if a well passed, it meant the levels were below
0.03.
0.03.
Correct.
I just wanted to know what the level was.
Well, I mean,
just said
it must be
each
0.01
well
or 0.02.
has a different number.
Well, we don't know. I mean,
Well, we know it's not higher than
I know it's
0.03.
not over the 0.03, which is required for anything done. But I was just wondering, do we have that figure?
Yes, we do. We have it for every well, for every sample that's been done, the dozens of samples that have been done. The residents that receive copies of their samples, so they know what their samples are. DEP receives every sample. There's a whole record on all of those samples. Again, as I said, each one of those samples may have a different concentration, but what is important, did it pass, did it fail? That's what we have to go on.
I just wanted to make sure. You've now said that all the residents affected have received copies of these, and they know what their level is.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it should be 0.03 or less.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, DEP has copies of every record we do. We file reports that are 56 pages long, covering all this information.
All right, we have a request. No, we don't have to do the request for scrub it. We did the, okay, the people are not here for Carmen Sweeney, DBA El Profeta, for an ice cream truck.
I think they were here earlier. Didn't we do that?
No, we didn't do the ice cream truck.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we did the,
Right. No,
Go
you're right.
gold.
You're right.
yeah, go gold. So the question is, do we want, I don't know, wasn't there some issue with the ice cream truck?
So, yes, there was a complaint that there was an ice cream truck that wasn't properly located in town. Our health inspector went out, met with the folks, determined that they didn't have the license. He explained to them what they needed to do. They've now followed the procedure to come in and apply for that license so they can get certified appropriately. So they're in the process. This is an effort for them to correct what they didn't have before, and they've been shut down since from doing any business in Carver until this is resolved.
All right, so they're not actively soliciting business in
That is my
Carver, and they're going through the process to be able to legally do what they were doing illegally. Pleasure of the board?
I mean, my recommendation is for the board to move forward with it. It will be reviewed by the Board of Health, by the health officer, and make sure that everything's in conformance. But, you know, again, somebody is going through the process to take corrective measures.
I mean, if we put it off till the next meeting, they'll be missing the rest of the summer, so it's,
Discussion?
yeah.
So I just want to make sure all the estate permits are in order, that they've had their Cory checks done on anybody that's going to be in, because we're dealing with kids here and driving around town, and sometimes, like I said, kids are there without parental supervision and whatnot, so I'm very concerned with that, to make sure that this is done legally, and that's really it. I want to see that first before I vote
So you'd
on
make
it.
a motion to approve, subject to making sure Cory checks and all appropriate licensing is in place?
Yeah, I'd have to do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
On the motion?
Pardon me?
On the motion.
Further discussion on the motion, yes. But just like on anything? If none, those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right. Request to use Shirtlift Park, United Parish, for the blessing of the animals on August 25th from 9 to 10 a.m. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve and to waive any fees if there are any.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Update on executive session minute review of town council. I think you've seen the emails that went out last week and this week. The minutes are actually in on the table. It was actually Bob's suggestion, rather than disseminating them out to everybody, to just leave one copy in the office. And over the next month, if we can all go through them, so we know what they are. And then at our next meeting, we can vote to release them, if we're all satisfied that they're, in appropriate condition. So that'll be basically on the agenda for approval for the release of the executive session minutes at the next meeting. Bob?
Yeah, I went through them, and none of them have anything to do with me, because I wasn't a member at that time. So I was wondering if we could see the meeting minutes for executive session, since I've been on up till now, to have those too available to look at.
I guess if, as council gets them back to us, we'll get them into the pile.
But I'd like to see it before town council gets it, just for the fact that I want to see, to make sure that the information in there is correct and accurate. So
Okay.
therefore,
We can make, we can have a separate pile of executive session minutes since April.
yeah.
Okay? Right? That okay? We can do that, Elaine? Okay? Just, all right. Let's see, the minutes of June 18th, what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes of July 2nd, what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to make an amendment to the July 2nd meeting minutes under citizens' participation. It says Alan Germain read a statement in regards to the annual town meeting vote in regards to the playground. After that, I would like to add, in which he attacked Selectman Hewens personally. Mr. Germain claimed she had participated in a lawsuit against the town and had additionally had her husband sue the town. Mr. Germain also claimed she was in violation of her oath of office, called her egotistical, deceptive, and a liar, and called for her immediate resignation from the board. Because that is actually what happened.
Mr. Jermaine gave us a copy of those, of his statement.
And I have another one.
Pardon me?
I have another one of his statements.
Well, no, what I was going to say is, could we have that, I guess, yeah, Bob?
I'll make a motion that we add Mr. Jermaine's written testimony to our meeting minutes.
Right, I was going to say, I think that way it's what he actually said as opposed to, your take on what he said and so forth, so.
Well, town council's always told us that if something is not in the minutes, it didn't happen. And I think it needs to be in the minutes because it is what happened.
But this would be in the minutes, correct? We're adding a written statement
That's correct.
to the minutes.
It's not in the minutes, it's in a written statement accompanying the minutes. That's different, in my opinion.
I think the idea would be if someone wants to look at those minutes and see what was said, they'll be there. This whole statement would be there as opposed to just a summary of what was stated. Otherwise, we're probably going to be here having to dissect, how you wrote it versus how one of us might write it. So that.
No, these are direct quotes. These are direct quotes from.
Well, I think the word
statement.
attacked, is a.
I don't know what else you would call it.
Can I just ask, so if someone went to look at the meeting minutes, they would see something there saying, see attached statement, or there'd be a...
By you making that vote, yes. Sometimes we just say on file, but by Bob's amendment that it's attached, then it's attached to the minutes.
Okay.
They have that in there because, if you're going to pull out a few sentences out of the document and you put those in the minutes, you're not actually putting the whole story forward and it's out of context. So
Well, it's pretty much the whole
putting it in there
story.
the way Bob recommended is the proper way to go if you want it more than just on file. Normally, just for public comments, if somebody gives us something written, we normally just put that on file and we write in there it's on file, so it's in our office, but it's not necessarily always posted that way.
I believe if the minutes reflect the fact that the statement read at that time is attached as an attachment for those minutes, I'm comfortable with that.
I am as well.
Someone want to make that motion?
I thought Bob made the motion. I'll second.
Okay, was that the motion? All right, was there a second?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Further discussion?
So this is a motion to attach the statement to the minutes and to put in the minutes that the statement is attached?
Correct.
Okay.
It'll be with the minutes. So the minutes will be here where that it'll say attached is Mr. Jermaine's
At
statement.
the point of citizen participation, it will refer you to the statement.
Which will be attached to, stapled together with it, so it's there all the time.
Right.
And there's no issues about it.
Correct.
It's not like go see it here and then
Someone can't find it.
You can't find it at some point,
Correct.
so.
All right, if there's no further discussion, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Well, I'm in favor of Bob's statement, but I also would like my statement to be included, so I'll have to say no.
Okay. That brings us to our next meeting is coming up September 3rd and the 17th. We're back starting in September to 2 meetings a month on the first and third Tuesdays. Are we having the executive session this evening?
Briefly.
We'll have I need a motion for an executive session.
I'd make a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, MCAD library that may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town if held in open session, and to reconvene in open session for purpose of adjournment.
Second.
All right, we need to take a open vote on this. Mr. Belbin?
Aye.
No, Bob Belbin says aye.
Bob Belbin said aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Ron Clark says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
That's it?
Chairman, I'll have the library director join us in executive session.
Okay, that would be excellent. And let's remember that we have spraying coming up the next, starting Thursday night throughout town. We have the Carver Night Out coming up on Thursday the 8th from 5 to 9. And we wish everybody well and hope the Red Sox find a way to win again.